All right, we're jumping straight into it. So, today I wanted to talk about 5 recruitment trends specifically for agency recruiting. Now, agency recruiting, as many of you may know by now, it is not HR, it's not internal recruiting, it is its own little thing. So, actually, not a little thing, it's a huge thing. It is a humongous business, it's an insane industry, business, growing sector in the GDP of pretty much every single country. It is like kind of a big deal. Anywho, I wanted to share today as I record my DG Recruit podcast 145, the 5 trends in agency recruitment. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the 5 trends. If you have any questions, you can feel free to pop in and ask as many questions as you'd like. All right, cool. Awesome. So let's get started. DG Recruit 145 podcast recording. In today's DG Recruit podcast, I'm going to cover 5 trends in agency recruitment that you're bound to experience in the next 5 to 10 years. The first trend, first and foremost, that I want to highlight is that if you do not get into the sales side of the business as soon as possible, your career will continue to be highly limited. Now, this has stood true for the test of time. It will continue to be the case because if you cannot progress to being more than just a recruiter working at a recruiting agency, if you cannot progress to being more than just a recruiter, your career will face severe limitations. And the reason is because your experience level in terms of doing the job, it's only half the job. So when running a recruiting agency, you have 2 hands that have to work together to clap, as in you need to have clients and you need to have candidates. And guess who's easier to get? Candidates. It's actually harder to figure out how to bring on clients from a standing start of 0. This is the niche skill in our industry that is highly valued. It's like saying, well, what's the best skill in a lawyer's office? Bringing in clients, winning accounts, winning opportunities. Actually doing the paperwork is the easy part. Going to court is the easy part. Winning the client, putting yourself ahead of other law firms to get clients, that's the unique skill that is highly compensated, that will take your career further. So that is the same issue that we have with recruiting as well, right? It's like that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who have this skill set to figure out how to drum up clients from nothing. All right. So that's kind of the goal. The goal is doing that. Okay. Now I'm going to try to figure something out real quick. Okay, cool. Anyways, so that's the first step, is if you cannot increase your skill set to being more than just a recruiter, you will continue to suffer career setbacks as a result of that. So it's really, really important to learn how to sell. And then number 2, AI is going to be leveraged. Obviously, it's such a great tool. AI is actually really cool. So AI is really functional and helpful. It doesn't replace our job, but it certainly helps us. Every technology ends up helping us make more money. And there are clever people that will use the technology to make them more money. So for instance, yeah, you probably shouldn't outsource your every single day's social media post to AI, because AI might not be the best writer. But at least you can say, hey, AI, give me, 10 good topics to talk about this week. So what AI will do for people is that it's going to give people who have less skills without AI an advantage. And because people who are not doing well or weren't previously capable of something amazing can now do the bare minimum, it kind of raises the bar for everybody. So it's kind of like, not so much if you choose or choose not to use it. The fact is, everybody's going to be using it. So then the question is, well, how do you use it so that you don't fall behind in a competitive environment? Because let's say someone who isn't a strong writer ends up asking their AI tool to write 20 posts for them and posts, 3 a day. They're going to get more eyeballs than you, right? So it's not so much the quality of the work that is driving customer engagement, which is sad to say. It really is ultimately like how many eyeballs can they attract, not so much how good the quality is. And that's what's just unfair about marketing. This is why you have brands that aren't that great get a lot of marketing, and brands that are awesome not sell well because they don't have good marketing. And it comes down to using the tools appropriately and aligning them with your workflow so you can maximize the return on those tools. So same thing for AI. How can you leverage AI today? Obviously, if you haven't already played around with ChatGPT, play around with it. It's really not rocket science. It's definitely helped me think about a few things. I mean, I write a lot of posts anyways, but the technology is just starting. There's so much more you can do with it. Definitely try using it and just see how it could help you do your daily tasks. Ask it questions, ask it to double check your writing, ask it to help you look at things. If you're struggling on phrasing something correctly, try using ChatGPT to help you communicate better. And that's really what these AI tools are meant to do. They're to help you communicate better. So this is supposed to be amplifying your opportunity, not taking it away. And so that's going to continue happening. The next 5 to 10 years, AI will be a commonly accepted tool that lots of people will use for a variety of reasons. And, I'm kind of excited about AI because some of the stuff I do is very manual and it's not great. And I would love to offshore it. But if you offshore it, sometimes it's even worse because people don't have the linguistic skills that you need. So AI kind of takes care of all that. AI is going to really help with that. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to seeing how AI can help me do marketing. And now that is the third point. The third point is AI is going to be leveraged a lot in social media. So social media will proliferate even more. Yesterday, I saw a few people write online, oh, I know lots of top billers that didn't have to use AI and didn't have to use social media. Yeah, that was from the 1990s and the 2000s and the 2010s. When technology develops, you either adapt or you die. I mean, that is literally how entire industries have been wiped out. And you're seeing this very clearly with this generation because I consult with people all the time. And I have people who are, 50s, 60s, 40s even. And they're like, oh, I'm never going to use social media. And I'm like, good luck. Good luck making it through the noise, because the reality is people are going to Google you. Okay. So they're going to hear you call them on the phone. They're going to say, tell me your name again. And then they're going to pop it into Google as you're on the phone, as I would. If I'm a candidate and a recruiter calls me, I'd be like, hey, you know what? You sound legit. Let me look you up. That would be my first action as a candidate. I'd say, okay, hold on. Let me look you up. And if I'm not liking what I'm seeing, it doesn't matter what you say about yourself. So this is the biggest problem with people who don't understand social media, is that they just assume that they can sell a candidate on trusting them. When there's no LinkedIn testimonials, there is nothing on your website, and your website looks like crap, and just completely nothing, like nothing. There's not a single video of you. There's not a single interview. So how can you tell me that you are the world's #1 XYZ recruiter if I have never seen you on the internet, right? So this is what I think people are missing. And every time I coach someone and they want to argue with me about it, I'm like, we are just from different planets, and you probably shouldn't have hired me as a coach because you are operating on a 1.0 model. I'm on 2.0. I'm going to I'm going to use 3.0 in a bit with AI and whatnot. Right. So social media is not a joke. This is real marketing, people. This is real marketing, and real marketing converts into real dollars. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend all your time making YouTube videos, but you got to have a minimal presence. That's all I'm saying. Right. I don't think that anyone should be operating tomorrow to hire a videographer. Not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying you need to integrate some simple social media plans into your daily life as you would any marketing tool, as you would send out an email with a most placeable candidate send out, as you would send something to a client about a panel that you're hosting. That's just business today, right? Business today has evolved beyond just pick up the phone and hope that people pick up and then will trust you. They're going to Google you, and you're going to want to have some sort of presence on the internet. So that is number 3. Social media, 100% is going to proliferate more. And the sad thing, let me remind you again, the very sad truth of it all is that the people who are not great are going to get a lot of eyeballs, and you're going to fall behind. You might be the best recruiter, but your crappy competition is going to have more stuff on the internet, and they're going to win the search because the client's going to say, well, I'm sorry, you guys don't really have any marketing. Guess who I'm going to choose to partner with? It's going to be that person because they have all of these marketing tools. Look what they just showed me. They got 20,000 people on their internal LinkedIn article list. They got XYZ going. You know what I mean? So it's like you always have to watch out. It's not a matter of personal choice because I think so many people are like, well, I don't want to do it. The market doesn't care what you like to do or don't like to do. That's the sad part of it all. The market does not care about your personal preference. The market cares about the information that it's receiving. And if your name is not on the list, you're not going into the club. You're not getting in the club. You are not part of the clout. You do not have any clout. So clout matters. Clout matters in business, right? Because people go off by what they perceive, and perception then becomes reality. So it's not a joke. Like social media in the next 5 to 10 years for recruitment firms is going to be a serious business. Right now, we're still in the early stages. We're still in the early stages where there is no number 1 X recruiter, number 1 Y recruiter. We're still not there yet. But in the next 5 to 10 years, you 100% can bet some savvy people are going to make themselves known. Some savvy people are really going to figure this out. And AI is going to contribute to that. AI is going to make it easier for people to create content, to use content, to create better content. So the revolution has already started and will continue to go. All right. So number 3 is whether you like it or not, social media is here to stay. And you can argue that you can cold call all day, which I don't say that you shouldn't. So here's another thing. When people hear me talk about social media, they're like, well, Don, cold calling still works. I'm like, yeah. I never said you should stop. Never said you should stop any of the tools and activities and strategies that we've been using for decades. Absolutely. That's good stuff. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's all good stuff. Absolutely cold call, absolutely market map, absolutely send out most placeable candidates. But now you got to add on social media. This is 21st century, right? We got to get with the times. And the people who do, they're going to get more market share. You can count on that. All right, number 4, on that related note, there will be market consolidation. Market consolidation, what does that mean? Market consolidation means that monopolization will be happening. As in, there will be somebody who is going to completely dominate certain markets, right? Obviously, I'm trying to do that for my market. And there will be people that will do it for their markets. They will start consolidating market control, because the marketing makes it easier for them to get monopolies. And this is what happened to me. I've already experienced monopolies. In 2011 to 2013, when I was doing regulatory writing, I was the monopolistic force in that market. And it was rare that a deal was done without me, because I managed the whole market from coast to coast outside of California, because internally they wouldn't let me touch California clients. Other than California, I had control over the whole country for regulatory writing, right? So I would lock it up. I would get a client and place 6 writers. I would get a client and place their director all the way to their senior writer, right? So monopolization has always happened. Now it's going to be easier because of social media. It's easier to get famous. Now you don't have to do the whole, let me call every single person, tell them that I exist. Now you have social media selling for you, right? So it's easier to get market consolidation. And that's what's going to happen, is a certain few people are starting to get famous in their markets. And we're already seeing that. There are now recruiters that are becoming very well known in their market, and they're using all the correct marketing tools. They're doing all the right things, and they're getting famous in their market. So market consolidation will continue to happen. And you see this happening in every single industry, right? Like you see this happening in like EVs, electric vehicles, right? Companies that are first to market, that first get that market share, they're getting the benefit of having the longevity in that particular market segment, right? So every single industry goes through market consolidation, like Amazon, Walmart, right? These companies consolidated. They got bigger and bigger, and they got a bigger piece of the pie because they got smart, and they were doing things in an innovative way. And because they were able to provide value to the customer, they're able to continue growing that market monopoly. And that's what's also going to happen in recruiting. Like I said, people who do really good job, who are really well known in their circles, only get more famous. And it's easier for them to just lock up the market. Because remember, in recruiting, you don't need the whole market. You only want the top 20%. So actually, you don't want to deal with 80% of the market. 80% of the market, you actually don't want to mess with them. They're either candidates that you don't want to mess with or clients that you don't want to service. You want to deal with the top 20%. The top 20% are the people that are smart, easy to communicate with, that pay well. They pay good rates, and they're reasonable people, easy to do business with. That's the market that you want to dominate, right? So market consolidation, it's great. I don't want to deal with 80%. I want only that 20%, that top. I want to monopolize the top layer of my market segment, right? Again, I don't want to represent the C tier client or the C tier candidate. It's just not interesting. Makes my life harder. I make less money. They're more dramatic, harder to manage. Like, don't need that drama. I want the creme de la creme. I want the A clients. I want the Kobe beef, right? I want the freaking, I don't even know that much about beef, but you know my point. Like, I want the top of the layer. Right? So market consolidation is going to happen. People are going to get more and more powerful in their markets because they're going to start becoming very famous. And again, as long as this leads to my fifth point, which is entrepreneurship is going to thrive. We are in the golden age of entrepreneurship, especially as it relates to full desk headhunters, which is why, going back to point number one, it's really important to know how to sell. If you don't know how to sell, you're forever tethered to your employer because you don't know, how can I curate clients? How can I build a book by myself, right? Like, the problem of being stuck in a recruiter only role is that you cannot partake in all of this exciting happenings on the client side because it's just something you're not a master at, right? So I always tell people, hey, don't experiment on your own dollar. Ideally, don't do that. That's not very smart. Like, why would I want to risk my own money when I can risk someone else's? That's the whole point of being a worker. You work for somebody else. You make all the mistakes on their dollar, right? That's why I worked at a recruiting company for 5 years. I worked there for 5 years so that I could perfect my craft and feel very, very confident that there's nothing else that I need to learn. I'm ready. I know how to do this thing. I've been doing it. I've set up multiple markets. I know how to build markets from scratch, not just any old market, high value markets, 6-figure deals, right? So it's like, I've been there, done that. Now I know that there's nothing else left to scratch. I'm ready to go, right? That's the whole point. And now you're ready to go into entrepreneurship, into this golden age. Tools are getting cheaper. CRMs are cheap. CRMs are like, there's free ones now. There's free CRMs. There's $30, $40 ones. There's $80, $90 ones. It's cheap, right? All you need is a Wi-Fi, a phone, a computer. We already have these things. Most normal human beings have these things today. Right? So we have all the tools we need to do. The only thing that we're lacking is knowledge. So entrepreneurship today is the point. Market consolidation is going to really benefit the entrepreneurs because they're the ones that are going to grab all the market share since they own the whole soup to nuts business. Right? Like, I don't need to have 30 people in a small geography fighting over each other. Right? You look at like the large recruiting firms. It's like a bunch of people fighting over a small little territory. How exhausting is that life? Let's be honest. Like, most people, unless you're a lifer, you don't do that for that long. Like, honestly, I couldn't even imagine. Like, I'm 35 going on 36. I was 28 when I quit. And I was like, I cannot imagine working here past like 28. Like that's when I quit. I quit when I was 28. Because I was like, how exhausting is it to deal with the internal politics when recruiting is so simple? You just get a client, you get a candidate, and you make money. It really isn't that complicated, right? Especially if you're a full desk recruiter. So especially for full desk headhunters, at a certain point, you really got to scratch your head and be like, what is holding me back? And every single day I talk to recruiters and they're in that boat. They're like, yeah, shoot, what am I getting out of this? Do I want to run a whole team of 20 college grads that don't give a crap about recruiting? Right? We've all been there. We've all worked at a big recruiting agency. And we've seen the high fall off rate, the high failure rate, people who don't give a crap. We've seen that happen all the time. And now another trend that I'm saying, I don't even add this to this list, but another trend we're seeing is the next generation. Where are the hungry people? Where are the hungry people that are coming in to work on a 40K base? They're gone. They're not here. Everyone's like, well, I need to live a certain lifestyle. I deserve certain things. That whole generation, like I'm probably that last generation. There are very few people now in the Gen Z and certainly not in the Gen Alpha. They're not even ready yet. Like how many people are that hungry that are going to show up to work on a 35K base and bust their butt? There's going to be very few. They're going to come in, they're going to say, I want 60K and I want to work from home and I don't want to be pressured. I don't need to hit my KPIs. The culture is changing, you know? So being an entrepreneur, you actually have more control over your earning. And I'm not trying to sell everyone into being an entrepreneur. Just don't take it that way. I'm just saying the trend is that more and more savvy recruiters are going to figure it out. Like, why am I going to work at some large agency when I could just start my own? That's what everyone's talking about. That's what a lot of people are thinking about as their next step. And that's why it's really hard to do what I do, which is recruiting recruiters, because people at a certain point in their career no longer need to work for an employer anymore if they don't blow all their money. Obviously, there are a lot of people that blow all their money and they have to stay as a worker for the rest of their lives. That's a different topic. That is a matter of financial irresponsibility and lack of financial diligence. But for people who are financially diligent, they will have had probably saved up anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 within the first 6 to 8 years of their recruitment career if they're a top biller, because this business makes you a lot of money. So if you are then, let's say, late 20s, early 30s with about $500,000 sitting around, I think most people are going to cross their minds to maybe I should start a recruiting firm or do something else, right? So entrepreneurship is absolutely something that people can consider. And a lot of successful people in recruiting, once you make the money, you have the money. It's like, well, I don't have to work anymore. Yeah. I mean, why do you? Right? That's when people sit down and they start thinking, what should I do next? Should I keep recruiting? Certainly I'm not going to work here anymore. Right. And that's what happened to me and many, many, many other people. Right. It's like you make a certain amount of money. You're just like, life's got to be more than this. Why should I work at this large recruiting agency when I could just do something else? Right. So that's another trend that in the next 5-10 years, we're going to see a lot of people, even younger, take their entrepreneurship journey ahead because the tools are getting cheaper. People are getting savvier. They know how to cover their costs, and remote work is a thing, right? Before, people didn't live in low cost of living areas, but now people can. And if you run your own agency, you can live anywhere. You can live in any country. You can live in any state, right? Nobody tells you what to do. So entrepreneurship, again, is going to be a trend that's going to happen. So those are the 5 trends that I picked up on that I think will continue happening. Number 1 is you got to get on the sales side. You don't want to be stuck in recruiting forever. Number 2, as a recap, AI is going to be highly leveraged by recruiting companies and recruiters. So you don't want to be left behind in that revolution. Number 3 is social media is going to continue to proliferate, which leads to number 4, market consolidation. Market consolidation is going to lead to number 5, more and more people leveraging entrepreneurship to benefit more from market consolidation. Because remember, if you run your own agency, everything you do comes back to you, right? You own the agency, you get the benefit. And I'm not going to do that for someone else if I'm working for someone else, right? Like, why would I pump out hours and hours and hours of media content when I work for some big agency that I don't even own? Most recruiters wouldn't do that. But if you run your own agency, all of a sudden, marketing makes a lot more sense because you get all the benefits of that. You own the benefits, the ROI of those efforts. So that's what's going to continue happening is that people are going to connect the dots and go, I'm going to do all of this and I'm going to do it for myself this time. And it only makes sense, especially if you're a direct hire, full desk recruiter, headhunter, right? Obviously, for temp staffing, some of this will not apply. Temp staffing is a very, very different business. As many of you may know, I come from only doing direct hire, headhunting, full desk. So I don't actually do any temp staffing. I haven't placed a contractor in my life. So for temp businesses, I will caveat all of these trends that some of this is going to apply more than others. Obviously, running a temp firm is very different and more costly than running a direct hire headhunting business. It's a lot more complicated and you might be leaving behind a lot of money. So a lot of the temp people I talk to, if you've been working for a large staffing agency and you're 5 to 8 years in and you make more than $500,000 a year, guy or gal, if I were you, I'd just coast. I'd take that $500,000 a year, I put it into different investments and I sail off into the sunset in maybe another 5 more years, right? So it's a totally different ball game, temp versus perm, right? Because it's just a different business model. So you got to keep that in mind because I'll talk to people who work at these temp companies and some of them are making 600,000 and I'm like, stay. That's insane. It'll be very hard to replicate that as an entrepreneur. It's just a lot of work, right? Because you need a delivery team, you need back office help, you need payrolling support, you need all these things that the platform already provides you. And you already have that through your existing agency and you're making more than $500,000 a year. Chill, just chill, right? Just keep working there. There's very little that you should consider doing other than that because you'd be silly to give that up. So I'll end today's podcast with this piece of advice. Is think about your marginal gain versus your marginal pain, right? That's the conversation I'm always having with people is think about what you're actually going to earn and is it worth the risk? And the popular term is is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Is it worth you leaving a $600K job for the hassle of being an entrepreneur? And the answer is hell no. Most people who are making $600,000 a year are making more than actual doctors and CEOs of actual companies, right? So if you're already making that kind of money in staffing, don't quit. That's insane. That is such a humongous risk. And you'd have to really question your sanity to take on that kind of risk. Versus on the direct hire side, if you're getting screwed over on your commission, you're making only 20 to 30% net commission a year, you're billing over 600,000 on your own accounts, you know how to sell, the risk and reward ratio just looks so much different, which is why you see different levels of people going into entrepreneurship on both sides of the desk, perm and temp, right? It's a totally different scene. So you got to kind of think about, not only the business as well as your personal setup, obviously your financial situation. Some people are the main breadwinner and they have a lot of obligations. It makes it harder to do some of the stuff that we're talking about here, like entrepreneurship, right? So again, you have to customize it based on your personal situation. And does it provide you too much risk or are you silly to not take the risk because the reward is so much better? So again, for direct hire people, the answer is, yeah, the reward is so much better that it's actually worth the risk. And for a lot of staffing people, the reward is not so much better. And I'd be better off not taking that risk. So again, with business decisions, I think you have to be very selfish, very considerate, very careful, because the last thing you want to do is pull out the rug from under yourself. Right. So anyways, this is why people pay me for coaching. So you're more than welcome to reach out if you want to discuss any of these trends that I've mentioned. As many of you may know, on our DG Recruit website, we do have courses and there is an entry course to content creation for social media. And Grace has shared all of her secret tips on that course. So go on to dgrecruit.com and that course is on there. You can buy it now and take the course. Other than that, I do have my most placeable candidate coaching coming out this Friday. I'm a little behind, a little stressed, but my goal is to pump that out so you can buy it as soon as Friday. And on Friday at noon Eastern, we're going to do a quick rundown of it all, and you can ask live questions, and people on that event will be able to access a discount code. So make sure to go on to dondonzoo.com, sign up for the webinar, and that way you'll be kept in touch about what the course is all about, get the preview and the discount code. On top of that, let me know what you think about these trends, and make sure to send me any additional questions on future podcast topics that you'd like me to contribute to. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Cool. So that's the podcast episode. Happy to have gotten it done. All right. Let's see. Let's see what people. Okay. There are some AI recruitment tools that I've already taken the market to make sourcing much easier. I'm curious how that will affect agencies. Cool. Yeah. Again, I don't know how important sourcing tools are, because it depends on who is reaching out to the candidate, right? Ultimately, it's the candidate that makes the decision on who they're going to respond to. So if they get a lot of incoming emails, and just imagine, okay, so let's imagine this is the case, that there are a bunch of AI recruitment tools that are now available to help candidates source. Let's just imagine that that's now been the case. Everybody has access to these tools. You pay $20 a month and they'll freaking churn you out lists and lists of candidates. Number one, my question is, how accurate are those AI recruitment tools? If you and I have ever sat in a recruiter's seat, you and I will know that it's actually really, really hard to find the golden candidates, because there's so much in the profile algorithms that are not accounted for, including title disparity. So for instance, certain companies will call a certain position something completely different. And that's totally different than what another company will call it. So how does the system, first of all, manage that? Most systems will not manage it. Only the humans would know through talking to candidates that that's even the case. A good example of this is when I was doing regulatory writing, some people call it medical writer. But a medical writer is not the same, because there are many, many types of medical writers. Regulatory writing is only a sliver of the pie. Not to mention, some of these medical writers had weird titles like International Documentation Manager. That is a completely different title than regulatory medical writer. So a lot of times the AI tool will not know this. They will just not know this because they're not a recruiter that is heavily invested in these niche markets and would know the difference. So number one is, I think there is going to be a lot of errors. What's going to happen is these AI tools are going to generate the same lists for every single human who is using and buying that tool. And then all of these same people, imagine it could be hundreds of these people now using the AI tool and messaging people the same list. They're all using the same filters. Hey, I want an accounting finance person, 2 years in, lives in New York. So what's going to happen is these poor candidates are going to get so many messages from recruiting companies or companies hiring directly or HR people that they might just like shut off. They might just get fed up. That's probably what's going to happen. What's going to happen is candidates are going to get really fed up, which feeds into why I said in my podcast, number 3, social media is going to dominate and consolidate market power for select recruiters who can make it past that noise. Because what's going to happen is the ones with really strong social media presence that have a personality, that have shown who they are going to stand out from the crowd, because the crowd is just messaging them, hi, I have a job for you. You want to talk to me? But the person with the actual skill set is standing out above that crowd, right? So that's why social media, I'm telling you, is going to matter more. Personality, selling your personality, selling who you are is going to matter more, because so many people are going to be commoditizing themselves by using these AI tools, these sourcing tools that, again, make it so that the candidates are just like, oh, what the hell? So many recruiters messaging me all day. And that's already started to happen, right? We're getting all these emails, we're getting all these LinkedIn messages, and it's all just like spam. And you're just going to go spam, 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 which is why social media really matters, because You don't want to be marked as spam all the time. All right. So that's what I'm saying there. All right. Business changes as times do as well. Having a presence, sales comes from brand or reputation. The market doesn't care about feelings. It's just adding more tools to our tool belt. 100%. Exactly. I totally agree. Title disparity. Yeah. So we just talked about title disparity that impacts the sourcing program, right? Like, how would the AI know? They usually don't know. Director position posted with VP responsibilities, the director compensation. Exactly. So employers and job seekers, everyone's just operating on a totally different planet. Everyone's just like using different titles. Okay. Do we have any more questions before I hop off? If you have any more questions, feel free to pop them in here. But again, my points here are that I think the world is going to continue changing. And us as recruiters, all we can do is play with the tools, leverage the tools, integrate the tools into our system, into our workflow, because they're not going anywhere. Like, these tools now are out there. And what we know about tools and technology is that they're going to continue to proliferate, continue to become the market standard. And so it's really important for us to start thinking on a 2.0 mindset and not be held back. Because I just keep feeling and hearing, people, again, in like previous generations of recruiters, they're really struggling. And they're struggling because they're not adapting. And they've literally told me, they're like, I tell the candidate I'm the best. But I'm like, why would they believe you? Like, you just have no clout. You have no information, right? Like, we live in the information age. And if you don't have the information out in the public where people can access it, then all you're doing is potentially a scam. That's how a candidate would feel. That's how a client would feel. How can you tell me that you're the world's #1 technology recruiter if I look online and that's not the case? You're not ranked. There's not the SEO. You're just not at the top. You're not at the top of the list in your market. So how can I feel that what you told me was real, right? Which is why in recruiting, as we all know, the hardest working people survive and thrive. And that's what makes this industry forever exciting, but forever difficult, is that you have to work harder than everyone else. Because theoretically, I would like to just sit back and not do any of this stuff. I would like to just like sit down and do business like I did in 2011. But 2011 is 2011. 2023 is 2023. You cannot be doing business the same way you did even just a mere decade ago. I mean, that's how fast technology and changes to the business environment can impact your actual dollars and cents in your pocket. So I don't think anyone is like running out the door being like, oh my God, I can't wait to waste my own time creating social media tools and learning all these new skills that I didn't have to before. I think people are doing it because they recognize the threat that it imposes upon their livelihood. And they're like, let me get ahead of this. And that's the smart thing to do. Because the last thing you want to do is to be left behind. And unfortunately, that happens with also the truckers. Like, I go back to this trucker example, right? We know autonomous driving is coming. We know it's coming. So if I were a trucker, I'd be thinking about my future. I'm not going to wait until the shoe drops, just like this was coal miners. This was, seamstresses in the 1920s when textiles were being built. Technology is going to eradicate a lot of this. Even fast food workers, you're looking at how technology is totally replacing the need for a lot of fast food workers even. So again, we're all going to be impacted. Like, every single industry at some point is going to be impacted by technology. It's just like guaranteed to happen. Right? So what can we do to get ahead of the curve so that we can stay on the forefront of the market, the industry, the technology, instead of being left behind and realizing too late, oh God, now I have to learn social media. Well, why didn't you learn it 10 years ago? Right? Like, it's just easier if you learn it at an earlier stage in your life, integrate it with your workflow, and you can actually get more out of it versus finding out that the party's already started and you're very, very late, right? So that's where I'm going to leave it, is that, again, you're not doing this because you have no better things to do. You're doing it because it's a market reality, and you understand that we work in a competitive market and that other savvy people are going to take advantage of this. And you want to compete, and you still want to be competitive, which is why you're not going to take this extra effort and get into it, right? Because again, agency recruitment, it's cutthroat business. Like I'm writing my book, Agency Recruiting 101, Agency Recruitment 101, the ultimate insider's guide to this business and industry. And I mention it like, I don't even know how many times. I'm like, this is a cutthroat business. Like things change. You have to fight for market share. Like that's what it is. It's market share. That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get the eyeballs. You're trying to win market share. And it's not just going to flow into your pocket. Like you have to fight for it. No one's going to just hand it to you. It's a very proactive job, right? All right, cool. Well, it was really nice to catch up with everyone. And I look forward to the next podcast recording to share more insights about agency recruiting.